Jacob's Well, a popular swimming hole near Wimberley, will remain closed to swimmers for the foreseeable future.
And Hayes County officials say water conditions are not safe for swimming.
Almost everyone who stands at the edge of Jacob's Well has the exact same reaction. It doesn't look dangerous. It looks breathtaking. The water is so unbelievably clear that you can see straight into the deep blue below. Surrounded by rugged Texas limestone and bathed in warm sunlight, it feels more like a hidden paradise than one of the most feared diving sites on Earth. But looks can be dangerously deceiving, because beneath that calm, crystal-clear surface is a world almost no one was meant to enter, a tangled maze of flooded caves where sunlight disappears, passages become impossibly tight, and even the smallest mistake can become your last. Over the years, this place has claimed the lives of experienced divers and inspired stories so disturbing that many dismiss them as nothing more than myths. Until someone finally sent a robotic camera into the darkness. As it descended deeper than most people would ever dare to go, the footage began revealing something no one expected. What the cameras captured didn't just uncover the hidden depths of Jacob's Well. It exposed a reality far more terrifying than the legends that had surrounded it for decades. The mouth of the abyss. Just outside the quiet town of Wimberley, in the sun-baked hill country of central Texas, Jacob's Well emerges from the bed of Cypress Creek like something carved by design rather than nature. The opening is roughly 12 feet wide, a nearly perfect circle filled with water so clear it seems almost impossible. On any hot summer day, it becomes a gathering place. Families line the limestone edges. Swimmers drop into the cool depths. Thrill-seekers wait their turn for the perfect jump. The water holds at a constant 68 degrees year-round, refreshing and steady no matter what the season brings. Sunlight filters through the upper layers, tracing soft patterns along the rock walls, creating the impression of openness and safety. It is, from every angle, beautiful. And that beauty is exactly what makes it so dangerous. What most visitors never realize, what the surface never reveals, is that they aren't simply jumping into a spring. They're dropping into the mouth of a vast and deadly underwater cave system. Beneath the surface, Jacob's Well descends directly into the Trinity Aquifer, one of the largest and most significant underground water sources in the entire state of Texas. This aquifer stretches across thousands of square miles, feeding rivers, wells, and springs across central Texas. And Jacob's Well is one of its most dramatic surface expressions. It opens into a hidden network of chambers and passages that extends far beyond anything the eye can detect from above. For casual swimmers, the experience ends early. The first chamber sits about 30 feet down, wide enough and bright enough to feel manageable. But for experienced divers, that first chamber is only the beginning. Below it, the cave transforms entirely. At least 4 known chambers descend deeper into the earth, each one darker, tighter, and more hostile than the one before. They are connected by narrow, twisting passages that divers have given names over the years, names like the birth canal and the coffin. These aren't colorful nicknames, they are descriptions. Some of these passages are barely wide enough for a diver to squeeze through with their equipment still attached. And the further down you go, the less the environment forgives. The greatest danger isn't the depth, it isn't the darkness. It's something almost invisible, something that sits quietly on the cave floor, waiting. Fine limestone silt, powder soft and weightless, accumulated over thousands of years of geological time. It rests undisturbed in the stillness of the cave, harmless until the moment it isn't. One misplaced fin kick, one brush against the floor, and, in an instant, that silt erupts into the water column, transforming crystal clarity into total, absolute blindness. Everything disappears. up becomes indistinguishable from down. The passage you entered through vanishes. Panic sets in. The kind of panic that hijacks breathing, burns through an air supply at terrifying speed, and turns seconds into a countdown. Even the most seasoned cave divers have described that moment as one of the most disorienting experiences a human being can face. Your body screams to move fast, but moving fast in a silt cloud is exactly how people die. The only chance of survival is to stop. Force yourself still and wait for visibility to return if you have enough air left to wait. Many didn't. Over the years, Jacob's Well has claimed at least a dozen lives. Some bodies were recovered, others were not. They remain inside the cave system to this day, unreachable, preserved in the darkness far below. Authorities once attempted to seal the well with heavy metal grates to prevent further tragedies. The effort failed. Explorers returned, cut through the barriers, and went back in. Because, for some people, danger isn't a warning, it's an invitation. There's something about Jacob's Well that defies rational calculation. People who know exactly what it has done to others still find themselves standing at the edge, looking down into that perfect blue circle, feeling the pull. It's been described as almost gravitational, a force you experience in your chest before your mind has a chance to object. Jacob's Well continues to wait, silent, still, and far deeper than it appears. The robot descends. In the end, a hard decision had to be made. Sending human divers into the deepest parts of the cave was simply too risky. The margin for error was far too small. The chance of another fatal accident was just too great. Even the world's most skilled cave divers could be defeated by the tight passages, shifting silt, and the overwhelming darkness hidden within the lower chambers. If the truth about what existed beneath Jacob's Well was ever going to be uncovered, it would have to happen in a different way. So, they turned to technology. On a quiet morning, a research team arrived at the well carrying a specialized remotely operated vehicle, an advanced underwater drone called Explorer. The machine had been designed specifically for extreme conditions. It could handle crushing pressure, move through narrow and dangerous spaces, and it carried powerful artificial lights capable of piercing complete darkness, along with high-definition cameras built to capture details no human eye could ever reach. Unlike a human diver, it didn't need air. It didn't feel fear. It never had to return to the surface. It could remain perfectly still in total darkness for as long as the mission demanded. The objective, put simply, was to map the unexplored depths. As the drone was slowly lowered into the water, the team gathered around a row of monitors, watching the live feed in almost complete silence. The first images looked surprisingly calm. The machine glided through the upper chamber, where daylight still reached from the surface, spreading soft blue light across the smooth limestone walls. The water was so crystal clear, it hardly looked like water at all. The drone appeared to drift through open air instead of underwater. But that peaceful feeling didn't last. As it descended deeper, the light slowly disappeared. The blue faded into shadow. The shadows melted into complete blackness. By nearly 80 feet, every trace of natural light had vanished. Then the drone's powerful lights came alive, cutting through the darkness and revealing a world that felt completely separated from everything above. The walls closed in. The space became even tighter. The pale limestone, carved over thousands of years by underground water, surrounded the drone from both sides. The place no longer felt like a cave. It felt like a trap. Then the drone reached the passage divers called the Birth Canal. The name fit perfectly. The tunnel was unbelievably narrow, leaving barely enough space for the machine to squeeze through. The floor was covered with loose gravel and fine layers of silt. Every movement demanded perfect precision. The smallest touch against the sediment would send up a cloud of particles, instantly blinding the cameras and ending the mission within seconds. The operator's hands barely shifted, only tiny adjustments, the kind of control that comes from complete focus and calm. No one inside the control room said a word. Every pair of eyes remained locked on the screen. Minutes felt endless. Time itself seemed to stand still. Then the drone emerged on the other side. The third chamber opened around it, larger than the passage that led here, but absolutely dark beyond the reach of the lights. The space had a quality that was hard to name, unsettling, untouched, like somewhere that had been sealed away from time. Cave systems at this depth can remain completely undisturbed for centuries. The water in these lower chambers moves barely at all. Whatever enters tends to stay. The stillness was complete, but ahead, barely visible at the edge of the light's reach, was a darker shape in the rock wall, a narrow crack, a descending opening leading further down, the entrance to the fourth chamber. Among divers, this was known as the point of no return. The name referred not just to the physical challenge of the passage, but to something more psychological. The understanding that once you crossed into that space, the variables multiplied in ways that experience alone couldn't manage. It was the threshold where the cave stopped testing skill and started testing fate. The drone turned toward it, and the team leaned in, knowing they were about to witness something that no one had seen in decades. The chilling discovery. As the drone slowly approached the entrance to the fourth chamber, the mood inside the control room changed in a way that was difficult to explain. The passage ahead was narrower than anything the machine had passed through before, a dark crack in the limestone that seemed to swallow the light instead of reflecting it. Every movement from the operator was careful and controlled. No one breathed more than necessary. Then something reflected the drone's light. A faint metallic shine, low, close to the cave floor. Easy to ignore at first, maybe a mineral deposit, maybe a camera illusion at this depth. The operator naturally slowed the drone and zoomed closer. What appeared on the screen left the entire room speechless. Partly buried beneath the gravel was a scuba fin. Its shape was unmistakable, even under layers of silt and time. It rested at a strange angle, the kind of angle caused by impact or by a body that had suddenly stopped moving. The material had worn away, but it was clearly man-made, something that simply didn't belong here. The camera moved, and there was more. An old air tank, badly corroded, rested half-buried in the fine sediment nearby. Its surface was scratched and darkened by years beneath the water. Just a few feet away, a ripped piece of black wetsuit hung on a sharp edge of rock. Its fabric was frayed and completely motionless. These weren't recent remains. The amount of corrosion, the depth beneath, settled silt. These objects had been here for a very long time. The team exchanged quiet glances. No one said a word. Then the camera shifted slightly, and everything changed. As the drone tilted downward, its lights revealed what rested beneath the scattered equipment. Human remains, a skeleton, partly uncovered through the silt, trapped beneath a collapsed pile of gravel and stone. The position was haunting, frozen exactly where it had been when life came to an end. One arm seemed trapped beneath the debris, the posture of someone who had fought to survive before finally becoming still. The cold, silent water inside the deep chamber had preserved the scene with almost unbearable accuracy. Nothing had disturbed it. Nothing had shifted it. Time had simply moved around it, leaving everything exactly as it had been. The control room fell into complete silence. No one moved, no one spoke. The weight of what they were witnessing settled heavily on everyone in the room. This was no longer a mapping mission. This was no longer only data being collected for scientific records. This was a human being, someone who had entered this place, gone beneath the surface, and never returned. The team understood instantly. They hadn't discovered a geological formation. They had discovered a grave. As the drone continued its careful scan of the chamber, the complete picture became even more disturbing. More equipment scattered throughout the confined space. Another tank, another fin. Every item confirmed the same conclusion. This wasn't one tragic accident. Multiple divers had entered this chamber. Multiple divers had never escaped. Their equipment remained exactly where it had been left behind, preserved in perfect stillness by the freezing water and the thick layer of untouched silt. The chamber hadn't only claimed lives, it had kept them, hidden them, sealed them in darkness for years, for decades, unseen and forgotten by everyone on the surface above. The walls surrounding the remains seemed to grow tighter, even through the screen. There was no visible way out beyond the point where the drone hovered. The gravel was piled high and dangerously unstable, the kind of formation that wouldn't need much to collapse again. It became painfully obvious what had most likely happened. One wrong move, one misplaced hand or fin, and the loose sediment above would have crashed down in seconds. Inside that narrow space, there would have been no visibility, no space to turn, no chance to react. Only darkness. And then, nothing. The drone remained perfectly still. The camera stayed focused, and the team sat in complete silence, staring at something that had remained hidden for generations. A moment locked in time, buried beneath the earth, finally revealed by a machine capable of reaching places no living person safely could. What had started as a mission to map an unexplored cave had become something far more meaningful. They had uncovered not only the secrets of Jacob's Well, but also the final chapter of those who had dared to enter it. The 1979 tragedy. To fully understand the significance of what the drone had discovered, investigators looked back at one of the darkest chapters in the well's history, a disappearance that had remained unsolved for more than 4 decades. September 9, 1979. Kent Molden, a young and determined diver, entered Jacob's Well alongside his friend Mark Brasher. Cave diving during that time existed in a completely different world than it does today. Safety procedures were limited. Equipment was basic by today's standards. Regulations were few. The formal cave diving certification systems and strict safety practices that exist now, the rule of thirds for managing air supply, permanent guideline systems, mandatory backup lights, none of these had become common practice yet. What pushed divers forward was something no rule could ever control: the attraction of the unknown. And Jacob's Well, with its reputation for incredible depth and mystery, was the ultimate challenge. That evening, Kent and Mark aimed for the 4th chamber, the deepest point and the most dangerous section of the entire underwater system. They carried limited lights, no backup safety lines, and almost no room for mistakes. Every passage they crossed brought them closer to a place that offered no second chances. Another diver, Joe, watched as the two carefully made their way into the narrow opening leading toward the 4th chamber. He watched them disappear into the darkness of the tunnel. That was the last time anyone ever saw Kent Molden or Mark Brasher alive. Moments after they vanished into the passage, a thick cloud of silt exploded from the cave floor and swallowed everything. Joe flashed his dive light. There was no reply. The 2 men were gone, claimed by the well before anyone on the surface realized what had happened. Joe returned to the surface alone, and the reality of what had just happened slowly settled over everyone waiting above. Rescue efforts started immediately. Don Dibble, a former Navy diver with extensive experience in dangerous underwater recoveries, was called to assist. Even his skill reached its limits inside Jacob's Well. When he approached the fourth chamber, he encountered a barrier that couldn't be crossed. A shifting wall of gravel that collapsed every time someone tried to move it. The loose sediment was extremely dangerous, unstable in ways no one could predict. Every attempt to clear the passage caused another collapse, and each collapse made the situation even worse. During one especially risky attempt, Dibble himself became trapped. A sudden cave-in buried him against the cave wall beneath a mixture of silt and gravel. He fought his way free in complete darkness, pushing through the debris with dwindling air and panic quickly setting in. He survived, but only just. And that experience erased any remaining doubt about what the fourth chamber could do. It was a place that trapped mistakes and never let them go. After days of tireless, ultimately unsuccessful effort, the mission was abandoned. The authorities accepted what the cave had already decided, that Kent and Mark would remain where they were. Their families would never have a burial site to visit. There would be no closure in any conventional sense. The cave had taken them, and the cave would keep them. The fourth chamber of Jacob's Well had become something more than a geological formation. It had become a tomb. Decades later, the drone footage confirmed what divers and rescuers had long suspected and never been able to prove. Kent Malden and Mark Brasher were still there, preserved beneath layers of shifting gravel and silt, held in the stillness of a chamber that time had never touched. For the first time in more than 40 years, the truth was visible. And it was exactly as grim as the rumors had always suggested. The well that refuses to let go. The drone footage finally answered questions that had remained unanswered for decades, but it also uncovered new ones. Kent Malden hadn't simply gotten lost within the maze of Jacob's Well, he had been buried. A sudden collapse of gravel inside the tight confines of the fourth chamber, trapping him completely, sealing him beneath the sediment in absolute darkness. His remains rested exactly where they had fallen, preserved by the cold and the stillness of the deep water for more than 40 years. He was not alone. As the camera moved slowly across the chamber, it became obvious the cave had claimed more than one life throughout the years. Other remains, other rusted tanks, and worn-out equipment scattered across the confined space. Each one a story. Each one a person who had entered the well searching for something. Discovery, adventure, the thrill of reaching where no one had gone before, and never came back. The fourth chamber had not only trapped these divers, it had preserved them, kept them in a state of haunting permanence, hidden from the world above by gravel and darkness and time. And yet, even with everything now revealed, something about Jacob's Well still draws people toward it. Those who visit the spring describe it as a feeling that is difficult to explain and nearly impossible to ignore. A desire to go deeper, an almost magnetic force that pulls at something beyond rational thought. Some describe it as though the cave itself is aware of them, as though it is watching, waiting to see what they choose. Experienced divers who know the complete history of the well, who have studied every recorded fatality, who understand exactly what the silt can do and how quickly it can happen, have admitted that even they feel it. That standing at the edge of that perfect blue circle, the pull is real, and it is not completely rational. The mapped sections of the cave system represent only a small fraction of what may exist beneath the surface. Experts and longtime enthusiasts alike believe the known chambers are simply the visible edge of a much larger underground network, one that stretches outward through the Trinity Aquifer in directions no human or machine has ever explored. Underground rivers, hidden springs, miles of passage that remain entirely unexplored. The Trinity Aquifer is known to extend across a vast region of central Texas, and hydrologists believe Jacob's Well may connect to a network of tunnels that no expedition has ever reached. The possibility that the well connects to something much larger, much deeper, and much older only adds to the power of its mystery. More disturbing theories have circulated over the years. Some believe the aquifer may shelter life, organisms adapted to complete darkness and crushing pressure, surviving in conditions that would destroy anything above. Biologists have documented strange, eyeless, colorless creatures in similar cave systems elsewhere across Texas. Species that evolved in complete isolation over thousands of years. Whether Jacob's Well shelters its own hidden ecosystem remains unknown. Others suggest that Jacob's Well is something beyond a natural formation altogether. A portal, a gateway, a place where the rules of the physical world somehow shift. These ideas exist at the boundary of science and folklore, but they endure because something about the well encourages them. And yet, beneath every theory and assumption, one truth remains undeniable. Jacob's Well is not simply a peaceful swimming hole. It is not merely a local landmark or a fascinating geological wonder. It is a place that has claimed lives, hidden secrets, resisted every attempt to completely understand it, and continued to pull people toward its waters despite everything it has revealed. It demands respect in a way that very few natural places ever do. Not the quiet respect of admiration, but the deeper respect born from genuine fear. Every descent carries with it the chance of discovery and the chance of never returning. In the end, Jacob's Well holds a duality that refuses simple explanation. Its surface is welcoming, brilliant, and endlessly beautiful. What waits below is an abyss capable of trapping, burying, and preserving anyone who ventures too deeply. Beauty and danger, perfectly balanced, existing together within the same circle of crystal-clear water. The mysteries beneath continue to draw people closer. The well continues to guard its secrets carefully. A silent witness over the lives it has claimed. A reminder that some places on this earth are not meant to be conquered, only approached with caution and remembered with reverence. Jacob's Well may appear like a peaceful escape, but beneath its surface rests a story of danger, tragedy, and secrets that refuse to remain buried. The drone footage answered some of what had stayed hidden for decades, but it also raised questions that no camera can completely uncover. Is this simply a natural trap shaped through thousands of years of geology? Or is there something else beneath? Something we still haven't found the words to explain. Some mysteries are meant to be solved. Others seem determined to stay hidden. What do you think lies beneath Jacob's Well? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by stories like this one, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are many more mysteries waiting.